but they get it. And I think that to me is always what is so cool. It's like, you have the parents and then you have the girl and the girl's like, no, mom, it's like this. And she's like, well, yeah, okay.
And so this is what is fascinating to me. So obviously I'm still very young. My friends just had kids, right? They're like in their 1-2 years old, maybe still in diapers. And, I'm hearing it a lot from my friends saying, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about digital. I'm worried about my kids living online. But, the reality is they already are. Welcome back to another episode of Girl in the Verse, the video podcast. Now, don't forget, for those listening, this episode is also available on video, and I'd love for you to like, share, and comment right this second. This allows us to continue doing what we love here at Girl in the Verse. Now, today, we have Juliette Blake, founder of Miss O and Friends. Juliette started the platform at 16 years old to help her younger sister, and it has since become a media and lifestyle brand, empowering tween girls to safely express themselves and connect with a community of like-minded girls. Juliette and her team have created programs and much more, and I can't wait to dive into it, that allow girls to showcase their talents and build self-esteem while celebrating diversity. Juliette, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited. I have not only heard great things about Miss O Cool Girls, but so many great things about you. Thank you so much for doing what you do. I can't wait to dive right in. But just to start off, I want to wish you a happy International Women's Month, because at Girl in the Verse here, we want to celebrate women all month, not just on March 8th. So happy International Women's Month.
You too, and I'm gonna one up you and just say we like to celebrate it every day.
Yes.
And so for us, like International Women's Day, Day of the Girl, every day is International Women's Day and Day of the Girl. That's what we do, and that's how we build a more equitable future for everybody.
I love that, Juliette. And I really want to dive straight into that with you because, yes, it is Women's Month. Women should be celebrated every day. Walk us through, how you started the business, where you've taken it. I know now there's NFTs, there's minting, there's all this stuff, but maybe walk us through that journey, just to start off.
Totally. So Miss O and Friends, as you said, it started as a hobby when I was in middle school. And I really wanted to do something to help my sister and her friends. But it was initially because there was this birthday party. My sister was 8. She had just turned 8. I was 13. So, thick in the middle of middle school and all that super fun stuff that we deal with. But it was the first time that I really started seeing that happening with Olivia and her friends. And I was like, what? Like, they were clicking off. They were leaving each other out. They were talking about their boyfriends. They were talking about how they didn't want to eat birthday cake because they didn't want to get fat. And it was shocking for me. And so that was really like that moment for me where I wanted to do something to like make things better for her. And before that, I had doodled these girls that I called Cool Girls. And my mom, who is an artist and a graphic designer, had taken those and created these characters of my sister and I, and be like, Mom, like, make us go skiing or play soccer or go to the beach or do things that we like to do. Hobby for so long. We just sit around on my mom's computer playing around. But at this birthday party, we made these Miss O like characters for all of her friends, and they loved them. And so I was, okay, they were connecting with this art. There was clearly like something was going on that needed to be fixed. And so that's where Miss O and Friends came about. And so the whole idea behind Miss O and Friends was to create this safe space online where girls can just be girls. And I'm going to date myself because we did launch this a while ago, but we would always used to say after Barney, before Britney. It's like that tween age where you're not this little girl anymore, but you're not an adult. And it's a really challenging time. And unfortunately, it has only gotten even more challenging with how our tech and media have evolved. So launched the website, hobby still for a really long time. Procter & Gamble then invested in us, making it not so much a hobby anymore. And we were then really able to grow MissO.com to one of the top global websites for girls. And it's all user-generated content totally by girls, for girls, community focused, community driven, 100% safe, COPA compliant, COPA and GDPR compliant. And then from there, we launched something called our Girl to Girl Wall, which was like the true safe socialization where girls could ask questions and get answers. And so the whole idea behind that is for girls to, again, realize that they are not alone in whatever it is that they're dealing with. And again, girls from all over the world can really connect on just like these general threads. And it could be, what am I wearing to the first day of school? Or I'm being bullied, or I don't know what it means if I have a crush on my friend that's a girl, like whatever it might mean. These are the conversations that are taking place. 100% human moderated. So again, ensuring their safety and protection. And then from there, we then launched a series with YouTube Originals hosted with Disney called Hyperlinked, which was inspired by my founding story. Follows 5 girls in middle school as they create and build Misso.com to help other girls while dealing with middle school issues of their own. And I'm so proud of the show because the series really focused on entrepreneurship, positive female friendships, girls working together, STEM, and then really STEM and computer science. And there was this external study done that showed that girls who watched just the first episode of Hyperlinked, so that's 22 minutes of content, that is it, were 11% more likely to pursue a career in computer science than girls who didn't. So I say this because it really goes to show you the positive power that content can have. We see so much of the negative, and we see so much in the headlines of how our current media, our social media has these insane detrimental effects on girls, but that's because they're being fed this stuff. And so like, if we can really work to change that toxic content narrative for girls, this is how we can empower that next generation of change makers. So that's what my goal with Misso and Friends has always been. And now this like whole expansion into Web3 is really just leveling all of that up and emphasizing it even more and providing even more real and tangible opportunities to build a more equitable future for girls.
Yeah, so which, first of all, congratulations on all of it. Because it's, you know, you started at 13 and I could just, like, I want to picture myself at 13 and I don't know that I would have clicked to start doing that. My sister and I are just 1 year apart. So I don't know that I would have, you know, or put myself in her shoes just with 1 year. But the fact that you at 13 were like, I'm seeing something that's just not right, you know, kudos to you to have, you know, listened to yourself, build this, and now, you know, seeing, you know, what it's become. Because you're right. A lot of people like to blame social, but this is even before social. There's so many like elements to all of this. Congratulations again, because I just think you probably don't get enough flowers. So I just want to give you your flowers.
Thanks.
Now, of course, Juliette, you know, I entered Web3 about a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. I don't know who's counting, but a while ago. When I entered, I realized that, oh, there's not a lot of girls here. And so that's why I thought of the name Girl in the Verse. Now, how did you hear about Web3, NFTs, and how did you, or why did you want to start dabbling into this universe or metaverse?
Yeah, right. So my like Web3 journey, right, started like back in October 2021. I only know that like date because I was just talking to someone before and I was like doing the math back. I was like, okay, yeah, this is when it all started. But I actually had one of my close friends, her brother-in-law has been in crypto like very early. He's been in this space for a while. So he kind of like first got all of us like into it, just like more curious back in like 2016, just like, you know, like, oh, this is interesting. So I've always been really open to crypto and I've always been very curious about it. And then, and by 2016, I mean, we bought Bitcoin, but we sold it well before anything went up. So it's not like I was like a doctor like Bitcoin, like we made some profit off of it, but like my husband was in business school and I was funding our whole life. So you know, we had to sell the Bitcoin when it was maybe like $1,000 or something.
No regrets. No regrets.
You know what? It's okay. It still got us like into it early and, you know, we're on the bandwagon. But if, you know, he was always, I was always seeing what he was sharing with NFT, and like specifically like him going more from like kind of like the crypto perspective to NFTs, right? And talking more about NFTs. Like I had heard about Bitcoin, but I don't know what Ethereum is. Like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And so I just, I reached out to him and I just want to like pick your brain. Like, can you just sort of like share why this is interesting? And actually the one of the purposes of my initial call with him was not even thinking about Miss O and friends. It was actually thinking back to my sister, because she's an artist and she's a fashion designer. And I was seeing so much happening with art, and she's a beautiful artist and a fine artist. So I was like, like this could be really interesting for her. So that was actually like the initial goal of my conversation, was like, how could Olivia get selling her work as NFTs? And he was like, yeah, she can go ahead and do that, but Miss O should be doing NFTs. I told.
So wait, Juliette, wait. Walk me through this conversation, because I really want people to understand that it's not going to, first of all, it's not going to take one conversation for us to get on board with stuff. But what do you remember him saying that clicked for you, that you were like, oh, I can bring this to Miss O and for my sister?
Totally. And exactly what he said was, you already have a community, you have a niche community, you have an IP, you already have art. Miss O and Friends was all art. It was all characters. It was we already had that basis. And you're tapping into something that nobody is doing. So he was like, those are three huge things when it comes to Web3. And the fact that we also already were this digitally native company, right? We never started off with a magazine. We always started off online. Then we had an app. Our TV series was a streaming series. And so it's that digital component of who we already were, and the fact that we had already been working on the content, the community, the commerce, right? Which are three things that you hear so much when Metaverse is described. It's we were already doing so many of those things, but just in Web 2, right? Now it's so funny. I'm oh, it's a Web 2 company versus a Web 3 company, which I'm sure in the next 5 years, it'll just be, again, a company, right? There's not a delineation. But, hearing his kind of confidence and kind of breaking down some of the core principles of Web 3 for me, hearing those for the first time, and how we already had three of those things innately built in with a brand that I had been building for a while. And that was actually the other thing that he said. He was like, you're not just some pop-up rug pull NFT project. You have been a seasoned entrepreneur who has been building a successful business for a long time. So that also is going to help you, because you know what it takes to build a business. And I always say, everyone's oh, NFT project. I'm no. They're businesses. If they're going to be successful, you have to look at them as businesses, not projects, because you have to think of them that way. So after that conversation with him, and actually this was another really big takeaway, I was okay, cool. Can you send me some links, and can you send me stuff? And he was like,
go on Twitter.
He was like, yeah, I can send you some stuff, but get back on Twitter.
Yeah, go on Twitter.
Create a wallet. This is where you go create a wallet, send me your wallet ID, and I will send you your first NFT. And then from there, because so much about this is actually doing. So he sent me my first NFT. I created my wallet. He sent me an NFT, actually sent me a long necky lady, which was such an awesome one. And he's like, enjoy, have fun. Reach out to me if you have questions or if I can be helpful. But he's like, you have to do it. And I think that's also the advice that I give to anybody, which is why getting into Web3 can be challenging, is because you have to make that time commitment to want to learn and understand. Yeah. But for me, obviously, it's been so exciting, and I had to look back.
In light of International Women's Day, I'm also here, telling myself, I look at my living room, right? It's a picture of me. I've decorated it very girly. And I feel at this point, I've manifested this, right? But it's also when we say representation matters, is because we need women to see that other women are doing stuff. And I grew up thinking that if a woman was on stage, well, that there was no more room for me to be there, right? Because we grew up, or I grew up thinking, well, okay, she got the position, therefore I cannot. There's no more room for me. There's already a girl here. But the reality is the takeaway that I get from my thought process as a kid is I saw a girl, therefore I can, not that I cannot, right?
Yeah, if you can see it, you can be it, right? And I think that's so much of what we're trying to do is like be able to show girls that there is someone that like either looks like them or has the same interests as them or is doing something that is aspirational. And that's why from the hyperlinks from the series perspective, the whole point of that series was to really showcase girls in non-traditional roles and squash gender stereotypes. And the fact that by doing that, we were able to make such a positive impact on career perceptions when we know what these splits are when it comes to STEM and computer science and finance. And crypto is a whole nother ball. And Web3 is a whole nother ball game where it's still like 90% male. And so the more that like girls can see women in these leadership positions from an aspirational perspective, the better. And so with our education hub, Biddle, which just launched, which we can talk about, but so much of that was bringing in women leaders in Web3 to be part of that. So girls can see someone who is already doing it and like giving them that confidence to also be able to dive in if that's something that interests them.
Well, you've got Biddle, you've got Moxies, you got a bunch of stuff. So why don't you walk us through, even for moms, let's say, that are watching this potentially, who maybe don't understand NFTs or crypto, but you know what, maybe my little girl can start diving into this stuff. How does this work, for young girls? Because I know you're helping young girls set up wallets and minting and potentially doing art. So walk us through all of this.
Yeah. So with Miss O Cool Girls, that's a collection that can be minted. We have a ton of parents that have minted for their daughters, with their daughters, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, like people who are minting for or with like a younger girl in their life. And then obviously we just have like a lot of other allies, women probably being the largest majority of that. And we're like, yes, I wish something like this existed. Like I want to see women and girls more accurately portrayed when it comes to media and like build this healthier tech future for them. And so basically with Biddle, which is our new hub that we just launched, which I'm so excited about, Biddle is a free resource for anybody to use to essentially learn all about Web3. And so this was funded by the Uniswap Foundation. We also partnered with Ledger on it. We have some other partnerships that will be rolling out. But the goal here is to really lower the barrier to entry for girls and provide them with this safe and trusted resource. And when I say girls too, it's so many of the times girls and parents. And so I would highly encourage any parents or, again, older adult who has a younger girl in their life who are curious and interested to in tandem kind of participate with them, or they do it and you do it. Because the whole concept is we wanted to create these content pillars that were easily to digest, relatable, easy to understand, and kind of just like got to the point. So like when you walk away after like completing the Web3 pillar, which is like, it's like maybe 30 minutes, but it's not. Like it kind of depends on how long you want to like really sit there with the content. The videos are about a minute and a half, and then there's like additional content in there. But when you walk away, you feel like you have a really good understanding of what this means. And your mind starts going, how could I get involved? What am I doing that is like, could be Web3 tangential or utilizing this technology in my everyday life or in my job or in my hobbies or whatever it might be? Because I think that's truly like the beauty when it comes to Web3 is that it really hits on every category. So really being able to show that. And one of the activations that we have is the claiming up your Ethereum. So when we initially launched Miss O Cool Girls, we realized that the education component is a huge part of this because there's such a gap. So we launched something called Girls Who Mint, which was an initial $25,000 commitment to give out $100 worth of ETH to 250 girls, women, and non-binary and teach them what to do with it. So we were doing that through one-on-one Zooms, through webinars, and through in-person events. We have given out all of that money, which is so cool. And that's where there's like kind of that hand-holding that comes in. Like, we help answer any questions. In many cases, we help people set up their wallets for the first time. We walk them through minting. They decide to mint in this O Cool Girls. So then they're kind of part of our community, and they have an NFT in a project that is reflective of a community and like who they want to be, like something that they want to be part of. Because I think that, and you probably experienced this with, like other people that you might be like teaching Web3 about, or even like your early entry point into Web3, is it only really clicks if there's something that makes you want to get involved. Because initially, like, there was so many of these like big nail projects, and you're like, well, that's not representative of me, or that's not a community I want to invest my time or money in. So like, why should I get involved in this? But like, once you can kind of build that, like, hey, we are working to build a better future for girls. This is how we've already done it. And this is how we plan to do it, with like really utilizing Web3 technology. And that's really where it can start to click for people of like, yeah, I want to learn about this. I want to get involved. Like, I want to see how like Web3 can better my life. So yeah, it's exciting. And there's lots of other things now that we're kind of building from that.
Well, that you were getting to my next question here, which is, my girlfriends don't care about this. They're like, crypto, NFTs, pff, it like just doesn't like they don't care, right? Like the reality is they don't care. So I want to ask Juliette, how do you make young girls' parents care about minting NFTs, getting $100, what to do with it? What is like that core that you feel like you keep seeing through everyone that's come across your platform?
I think what I have seen the most is, well, it's actually interesting. I think the art. So I think the art for us is really what's driving people, especially girls or parents, right? Because they're like, this feels good. Like, it makes you smile. It makes you feel happy. Like, when I see a mint come through and the girl has braces and acne and looks so confident, I'm like, yes, that is exactly what we are trying to do. And for me too, because we do so many of these sessions where, we're taking girl through the process, and like, she sets up her wallet, we send her the ETH, and she's like, I'm sure she's looking at it, she's like, is this real money? Like, I don't know if this is real. Like, what and we're explaining to her, it is real money. You just can't touch it. You can still use it to buy other things. Like, it's actually real. And then when she uses it to like mint the Miss O Cool Girl, and then it reveals, that is always the coolest part, because they're like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, right? And you don't know what you're going to get. And then they get one and they're like, right? Like, every time the face is like, wow. And then you're like, this is yours. You own this. Nobody else can have this. This is yours. And when you explain it in that sense, that is always like where I see like the light bulbs go off for the girls, because this generation is like growing as, I feel like I grew up in a digital world with having like computer class in third grade, right? But like, this is a whole other ball game of growing up in this truly digital space. And like, it's so intuitive to them. And so like, they see it and they get it. And then for me, what's always so cool is like, oh, this should be a avatar on this game, or this should be in here, or this should be in that, or I want to see this here. And I'm like, oh, okay, but where's my notepad? Like, okay. So I always think like what I see from the girl side is that they are connecting with that visual. And I think with this younger generation, that true connection of the digital and the physical is so important for them to really like get this, and they do. And then from the parent side, they're like, my daughter is learning about something that many people don't know about. This is really cool. I am teaching her and giving her the opportunity to teach her about something. And we actually, on Monday, when we announced the launch of our Biddle Hub, we had our Twitter Spaces, Ledger was on there, Uniswap was on there, Unstoppable Domains. But then we also had a lot of parents who have already gone through Girls Who Mint to kind of share some of their experiences. And what I thought was really interesting is that some of these parents had already been in crypto like for a while, right? And so they were like, yeah, of course, like I want my daughter to like get involved in this, but like she needed to do it in a way that felt authentic to her. And like Miss O Cool Girls was that space because this was a community that was building with and for her, right? She's like, my daughter thinks my monkey picture is stupid, but like she doesn't think this is stupid, right? And so like that part, again, it goes back to that like connection of connecting with a community that is like really for you. And then some of the parents also were like, of course, I want my daughter to have every opportunity possible. Like, why wouldn't I help her learn about this new technology that will be transforming our entire world in the next 5, 10, whatever plus years? Why wouldn't I want her to learn about that and learn about how she could get involved in it or not if she chooses that's not interesting, but to just understand it, because that's where you kind of see all these gaps when that information is not even presented. And that's what we're trying to do with Biddle, is just give those tools and resources so girls have that chance to get involved.
So how do you explain what an NFT is to a young girl?
So we basically say it's like a digital good. So we sometimes will compare it to like other gaming platforms that they use, you know, like when you buy this in Roblox, or if you're playing Minecraft, or if you're doing any of those other, if you created a dress-up game or whatever it is, right? So like kind of explain it in that sense. But the difference is that you actually own this, that this is actually yours. And because of blockchain, because of this technology, that like stores data in a way that it's safe, it's secure, it can't be changed, it can't be edited, it can't be deleted. You can prove that this picture right here belongs to you. And with that, you can get benefits from it. You can get perks. You can get in real life rewards. It can be like a membership pass. Like it can kind of release all of these different things, but it's a digital good that is yours. And yeah, so that's how we explain it. And then with minting, we're like, okay, it's like LOL surprise. You don't know what you're gonna get, right? Like you could get anything. There's 600 traits, right? And they all pair randomly. And we don't know what they look like. Like it's a surprise to us when they reveal. So I don't know which one you're gonna get, but like you could get a really rare one, like a really, really cool one. You could get one that's like kind of any average girl. You could get one that looks exactly like you or looks nothing like you. But it's like some kind of explain it in that sense. But they get it. And I think that to me is always what is so cool. It's like you have the parents and then you have the girl and the girl said, no, Mom, it's like this. And she's like, well, yeah, okay.
And so this is what is fascinating to me. So obviously I'm still very young. My friends just had kids, right? They're like in their 1-2 years old, maybe still in diapers. And, you know, I'm hearing it a lot from my friends saying, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about digital. I'm worried about my kids living online. But, you know, the reality is they already are, right? They already are. They already get it. And so you sitting here telling me, listen, the kids get it just by referencing the games like Minecraft or like that's crazy because I didn't get it. You know, I'm here. I still sometimes have a hard time defining what an NFT is, right? But they get it right away.
They get it right away. And I think that's the biggest thing. And like you kind of just touched on it. It's like stuff isn't going away, right? Like it's not like everyone's phones and the internet is going to be gone, right?
Yeah,
like,
we're switching it up.
Yeah, like that's not where our world is going. So like you cannot like that, but like you have to face that reality and then decide how can I do better then, right? How can we build better? And so that's really like what I am thinking about with all of this. Like you kind of alluded to it, but okay, you have this and you have this and you did this and you did that. Like what is all this under? So basically like what we are now building into is creating a gamified media ecosystem to really empower this next generation of change makers that is all safely powered by the blockchain. So I kind of like to think of it as like a Doodles 2 Reddit NFTs meets like Farcaster or Warpcast is what they're calling it now. And then Zepeto. And then like thinking about like bringing in community, play, games in this fun, authentic space that is helping this next generation of girls, so like Gen Z Alpha, right? Gen Z and Alpha, develop a healthy identity both digitally and in real life, because that in real life piece is also so important. So that's what we're actually now like working to build out, which I'm so excited about. And that will be called Moxies.X. So that's kind of what all of this everything that I have built so far is going to fall under this. And girls will essentially be able to create their own Moxie NFT. That is, like a avatar, but that is them, or whoever they aspire to be, right? And benefit from everything that blockchain has to offer, be able to own their own content, be able to decide how they want to interact, but in this still very safe and protected ecosystem, because that to me has been one of the red flags that keeps going off when I hear like, oh, Gen Alpha is going to be like the biggest adopters of the metaverse. But I'm like, okay, but like you can't send them in there. Like that is like, this is a really scary place. And like, if we have learned anything from seeing what has happened with our social platforms now, we know that we can't just build it, because they're going to come, and then you're going to have to deal with all the repercussions of the fact that it wasn't actually built for them or with their best interests in mind. So I think, looking at the kind of future of all of this is how can you really build that better tech and media future for this younger generation? And for me, that's what I'm really focused on, because I have young kids now too. I had 2 girls and I have a little boy, and I'm like, this was always personal for me, right? I started this for my sister, like middle school and high school were middle school and high school. Like there was always a personal thing for me. But now I'm like, oh my God, I had my own kids and this is what they're going to be doing. Like my girls don't even like get iPads, but like they grab my phone and they are doing things I don't even know how to do. And I am very tech savvy. So I'm like, oh God, we got to do better. We have to build something better.
Yeah. And I want to hear it from our audience. Please comment down below if you've had these sort of thoughts, like these worrying thoughts, because like I said, I'm hearing it from parents all the time. Like, well, Melina, I'm scared. I don't want them to go. But then, then I see their kids going on their iPads on YouTube. God knows where they end up. Right. So it's figuring out a way and acknowledging, and I think also like accepting that this is not going anywhere, but now how do we do better? Right?
Exactly. How do you do better and give them content or apps or whatever, games or whatever it might be, that is helping to develop that healthier identity and helping to like grow them as a person and like bring in that like educational, that social, that emotional component, that again, they're not just living in these like alternative worlds and just like living in that space, but like how that is bettering their in real life experiences. And for me, like I was actually just having a conversation with one of my friends who I met after I listened to her on a podcast, and she was in Web3, and she was like, my messages are open. I'd always love to connect with people, whatever. And I kid you not, we talk every day, all day now. And this was almost a year ago. But we were talking about like the connection of like things that you can build online in a way that like validates you or builds you up or grows your interest or whatever it is. But our interactions are, calling each other, leading to their voice notes or Zooms, which I guess is still digital, but like we're not living in a alternative world doing that. So I think the like importance of bridging those two pieces is something that I'm really focused on, because that physical is so important, and I'm not trying to take that away, but the screens are not going anywhere. So it's how can you utilize that time that you are going to give your kids so they can actually then learn how to be good citizens, both again, digitally and in real life, because we see problems in both areas that feed each other.
Yeah. Juliette, I wanted to ask you as well, I've been asking all women throughout this month of March, how do you feel being a woman in this tech world. I don't even want to say crypto NFTs and whatnot, because you have built a business, not in Web3. What's it been like for you as a woman, in this online world?
It's an interesting question because I feel like there's always like a different stage of something that like I'm trying to navigate. So when I was young and I started Miso and Friends, I was in a lot of like young entrepreneur organizations and like all of these like things with a lot of other young people. And I was always the girl with the cute website for girls. Like that was always how I was described. All of like, I had like one other girl in like any of these things that I did. So it was always, even at that young entrepreneurial age, very male dominated. And like these guys are great. Like I still am in touch with a lot of them, but that's what I was always described, not just by them, but other like mentors or advisors or people who were like introducing me. Yeah. So I've always hated that.
And that's okay. You're allowed to say that, right? What did they say? A little website. What was it? What was
like a cute little website for girls? And I'm like, and it doesn't. This is okay. The best was as always. This is Juliette. She's a female entrepreneur. I'm like, I'm sorry. We have to call out that I'm like, you're physically looking at me right now. Like we're calling that out. So it's interesting because I always had like, I think there have been cases where that may have worked in my favor, right? Because they're like, oh, wait, I'm actually impressed. Like you're not just a little girl who's building a cute little website for girls, right? So sometimes it was like, like under deliver, over promise type situations. I think it's interesting. Like I have, as I, just said, I've been an entrepreneur for over half of my life. So I have been dealing with this for like a very long time. So it's not new to me. Like it's interesting now, like being in the crypto space and seeing it kind of heightened. And then like I'm about to go out and like do like my first real type of like VC type raise, which we've never done before. And like, I'm hearing a lot of stuff, right? Like I'm like, oh, like you got to be prepared for this and this and this. And like as a woman founder and all of this stuff. So I feel like I'll probably start to have even more opinions of that as I go down that road. But again, like I think what I see is, and what I'm always constantly trying to show is that just because I'm a female and I have a business that is geared towards a girl demographic does not mean that this is just cute, and does not mean that I'm just doing this out of the goodness of my heart and that this isn't a nonprofit. I get that all the time. They're like, oh, Miso's a nonprofit, right? I'm like, why? Because it has a social good attached to it. It has to be a nonprofit? Absolutely not. This is a for-profit company. So I think for me, like that's always something that I have to like really show how, no, this is actually a massive market who deserves to be fed content that they are creating and have a voice in what that is, so we can really change the trajectory of the world for better. Like investing in girls and women is investing in a better future for the world. And I think being able to, like position that to a lot of male counterparts is like, oh no, there's actually a lot of money to be made here, because that seems to be what's driving the conversations. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. It's just something I've always navigated. And there's times where it helps me and there's times where it hurts me. But I think I don't like being described as a female entrepreneur, and I don't like being described as a female founder. And like I'm a founder. Yeah. Like I'm building, I'm doing things, like I'm a founder.
Well, I mean, I feel the same way. When I started in the space, it was just like my name. But then when I would request to speak on a Twitter space, it'd be like, hey, bro. And then at one point I was like, oh, they don't understand that this is a girl's name, but whatever. And so then I changed it to girl, and I specifically put it up in caps so that it was very clear for men to know that this was going to be a girl who was going to speak. And then I just sort of rolled with it. But I think for a lot of us who have been, vulnerable and open and, starting businesses, not just in crypto, I think subconsciously, like we've brushed off some things that we've heard. You know, like I realized that today, like in my past life as a reporter, being a woman on TV, like there are things that I remember now being told, like, hey, your makeup looks funny, or hey, you should go fix your hair, or like your blouse doesn't really, you know, like all those sort of comments. Or like, you can't do this story, you know, like let's let him do this like big political story. Right. So like all those like little moments in our lives. And I think that's what it means to me, right? Especially for International Women's Month, or, you know, the whole year celebrating us as females, is not only embracing that we're women, but remembering that this is an ongoing thing. This is not like an on off tomorrow, you know, everyone loves women. Just like it, for me, it's not bashing men, because sometimes I feel like it's not just men, it's women too. It's that we've been ingrained this sort of idea that we cannot because we're women, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's, you know, I think that all of the allies are important. And, you know, for me, I have had a lot of incredible male mentors, in some cases more impactful than female mentors, which I'm sure many people can relate to, because as you sort of said in the beginning, you saw that woman and you're like, oh, she's up there, so I can't be, right? And I think it's flipping that narrative of actually, especially when it comes to Web3, we really do need to be supportive, and there needs to be that cross collaboration, and there needs to be that, because otherwise we are just going back. The needle does not get moved forward. And I think for me in the last like year, since really, and probably even more so the last 6 months, what I have really come to see is that there are a lot of, like, and I have seen this in everything I've done with Miss O and Friends, of like, you know, trying to sell a show or partnerships or whatever it might be. I've seen it where they're like, oh, we love this mission, but we're going to pass, like whatever it is. And what's become like more clear to me is that it actually takes a lot for a large company or organization to invest in women, and to invest in girls. And it's disappointing. And I think there's a lot of, and I've seen so many posts today, actually, it's like, hey, companies who are celebrating International Women's Day, do these things instead. Like, stop saying celebrate. Talk about invest, partner, support, paid maternity, longer maternity leave, like all of course, like all these other things. And it kind of really hit me that I was like, you know, there's so many people like, oh yeah, we're all about this and we're all about this, and we want to support these DEI initiatives and blah, 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 whatever. And then you give them the opportunity and they're like, no, actually.
Yeah.
And it's always really frustrated me. And I think even more so, I've been seeing it now. And I think it does take a lot for a company to actually like talk the talk. So I would encourage anybody in here who's listening to really like try and, you know, talk and walk the walk, not talk the talk, sorry, but really like walk that walk, because it is disappointing seeing all of these large companies and organizations actually not moving the needle when they have the opportunity to do it. And supporting especially like girls in STEM initiatives and financial literacy, and how do you close these gender gaps? It does not start when they're in their 20s. It does not start in college. It does not start in high school. It starts when they are young. And you have to introduce these concepts equally to girls and to boys, but equally to girls, and continue to support and encourage these paths if we are going to see any change when it comes to leadership roles and fields that are very male dominated.
I was going to say, what have you seen, you know, since starting your business to today, in terms of, I mean, obviously I always feel like as women, as young girls, we are, you know, we're paving the way, but like I always say, we're not there yet. You know, like every day we are fighting, you know, every day when I turn on this microphone, I'm like, I'm lucky that I've got this mic, but not everyone does. Right. So what are you seeing, and are you hopeful for what's coming? You know, in terms of like Web3, crypto, but even for young girls, giving this access to, because let's not forget, technology has a price to it as well.
Totally. I think that's honestly like what drives me, and like really like what motivates me and kind of keeps me going, because owning your own business is hard. So it's not easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat the ups and downs, and all those memes you see about being an entrepreneur and a business owner are all 100% true.
And I'm going to say, Juliette, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, but not only being an entrepreneur, but being a female entrepreneur, as much as we hate that, but the reality is, and I've been saying this to a lot of my girlfriends, we as women have, we've told ourselves that we can do it all. We can be the girl boss, like we can be the super mom, like we can be, but the reality is there are choices, right? And so I would much rather this year in 2023 tell younger girls that they have choices, and that in life, if they say yes to one thing, it's okay if, someone's got to babysit the kids for a night, right? And it's allowing us, right?
100%. I'm so glad you said that, because I'm a working mom too, on top of that, right? I have 3 little kids. My oldest is 4. So like I have 3 little kids, and it is really hard. And I think, there are choices and there are decisions, and like these are decisions that I have to make kind of every day. And so I think that, for me, it's weighing like what the pros and the cons are of missing bedtime or going to do this. And sometimes staying home for bedtime is the right choice, and sometimes it's not. And so I think choices is really important, for sure, but also recognizing that you cannot do it all, and you cannot get an A+ in all of those things every day. For me, that's a hard thing to reconcile with. It can be like kind of type A. And so when I'm like, got a C- and being a mom today, that does not feel good.
It's that guilt too, though, right, Julia? Yeah. Like it's like, I don't have kids, but I could just imagine in my head already, I would feel guilty for having chosen to get on a stage instead of being there with my kids.
Absolutely. And I think and what's so interesting is I'm experiencing this as being a working mom now, but what's so crazy is I grew up with 2 working parents. My mom she commuted into New York City every day. She traveled all over the world for her job. And I never once felt like she missed out on anything. Like, I thought my mom had the coolest job, and I was so proud of her. And I loved all the perks that we got from like her business trips and like all of this stuff. And so I'm like, okay, this is me. This is my stuff. Like, as a kid, I never felt that way. But when I asked my mom, she's like, I felt guilty almost every single day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's, again, like, I think it's recognizing, and I mean, clearly the values that she instilled in me it was what drives me, right? To like want to be doing all of these things and want to be like still working, and like, and again, everybody's choice is their choice to me. And like, and I think like whatever kind of you choose when you have kids, that is your personal choice to make. And like, it's more, what is it that is best for you and is best for your family? Because I think you too is like an important thing. Like, I do not think I could stay at home all day with the kids. I actually don't think I am equipped to do that. And
that's okay too.
Yeah. And that is like, I think that is the hardest job in the world. And so like, I feel lucky that I can be on this podcast with you at 3:30 in the afternoon. And like, this is like something that is like also important to me and driving me. So I think just like for people to be able to recognize that. But for me, also back to the initial question that you asked, is I am so inspired by these girls, and I always have been. Like, seeing the girls that have come through Miss Ellen Friends over the last 15 years, seeing now all these girls that I'm connecting with from a Web3 perspective, these young artists. We launched a gallery space with Super Rare that's bringing in all of these young female artists, all under the age of 21. Our first gallery, the youngest girl was 8. Both of her pieces have already sold. And so like being able to like bring these girls in from all over the world, provide these real opportunities for them to get involved and to find what their passions are, and how, crypto, blockchain, NFTs can really grow that for them. And just, seeing what some of these girls are doing is just so cool. And that makes me excited. And knowing that Miss O has had an impact on them in some capacity of being able to provide those opportunities, is something that I'm really proud of and like excited to keep growing and connecting with all these girls from all over the world.
Juliette, thank you so much. Honestly, for every young girl, teen, tween, all the words, I don't even like the young girls, the moms, the dads, right? Like from everyone, I want to tell you thank you on behalf of everyone, because it takes a special person to have found this like vocation, I think, to do this. Started out with your sister, then it transpired into like you as a mom, your girls, right? Like this is just generation from generation, right? Like, right? It's just so beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this work. As always, guys, I'm going to put all the links down below. If you choose to mint a Miss O Cool Girl, is that the mint? Miss O Cool Girl?
Yeah,
okay,
Miss O Cool Girl,
right. If you choose to mint a Miss O Cool Girl, I'm going to put the links down below for Moxie, Biddle as well. Like everything will be here down below. And as always, you can find me up in the DMs. That is where the juiciest conversations are happening. Come and chat with me up in the DMs. You can find me on every social media platform. Again, please like, follow, comment, share this with your friends. If you found this was helpful, share this with your mom friends, right? Share this with your parents' friends. Share this with everyone. Share this with the youngest girls in your lives so we can keep this, what am I going to call it? This movement going. Right, Juliette?
Yeah.
Thank you so much again for being here. I'm so happy that we got to do this.
Well, thank you, Melina. This was so great. And thanks for giving me the chance. I just want to end on one small note, if that's okay. So actually, This is kind of one of my favorite recent stories. So our Biddle Hub that just launched is as I kind of shared, each section has at least one animated video. And so the animation of those videos was actually done by a previous Misso and Friends user. She actually joined Misso.com when she was 13. She was our first girl from Pakistan. And I remember we were like, how did you find out about us? That was like the first, we were in Europe and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And she then became an intern. She then became a paid intern. And the best is, and now she went into graphic design and animation, and she animated all of the videos for us. So For me, it was really cool to have this now young woman who is a girl on our platform and be able to pay her real money to be able to animate these videos for someone who's grown up with the brand. But I think for any parents listening, this is what I thought was so funny. When we called her to see if she wanted to do the animation for these videos, she was like, of course, I would be so excited to do this. She's like, I never told you guys this, but when you first started paying me as an intern, I told my mom, I think she was 17 at the time. She's like, I told my mom that I got a paid internship. And her mom was like, no, you didn't. What are you talking about? They're not paying you. You're making this up. She's like, and then you guys sent me my first check. And my mom was like, okay. I'm really impressed by you, 17-year-old daughter, and who is now making money. So I think for parents, just really being able to continuing to, fuel those flames and those passions that your kids have. Because as I said, I'm so impressed with this younger generation, and I just can't wait to see what they continue to do.
Julia, what a beautiful story. And you see that's part of it too, right? Is helping women, helping young girls, then they too want to in return come and help you. Then you get to pay. It's so full circle. Oh my God, what a beautiful way to end the show.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Juliette.
Yeah, I love that. I just love that story. And it's so recent. So it just what you told me, that just makes me feel good. And she's obviously, she's so talented. So watch the videos, if not to support Sabine, because she crushed it. So
I love it. Thank you again, Juliette, so much for coming on the show. I cannot thank you enough. I mean, I think all the young girls, moms, dads, everyone is thankful, really.
Well, thank you for having me. Happy International Women's Day every day.